My mother-in-law threw out my things because she didn't want a daughter-in-law who planned to give birth at her parents' house. She dragged me out of the house while I was still in my pajamas, not even letting me put on my shoes. All I had was my phone, so I called my mom, who luckily was nearby. I waited for her at a local diner. When my mom and sister heard what happened, they were furious. They made a call that marked the start of trouble for my mother-in-law and husband. My name is Katie, and I'm 28 years old. I married Sam, who is 30 a year ago. His father runs a big company, and Sam is being groomed to be the next CEO. Right now, he's training at one of their smaller companies. I met Sam at work, but I didn't know about his family's business until shortly before we got married. He hadn't told me that he was going to be the next CEO until then. I was completely surprised when Sam told me he was going to be the CEO of the main company. At first, I couldn't believe it because he seemed so capable and well-liked. But after he explained, it all made sense, and suddenly I was the wife of a future CEO. After we got married, Sam moved to the main company's office, while I continued working at my job. My father-in-law told me, "I've heard you're a young leader at your workplace. Keep up the good work," Sam said. However, my mother-in-law had a different view. "Why would a wife neglect her home to work?" she asked, strongly opposed to me having a job. I thought there wouldn't be any issues since we weren't living together, but I was mistaken. Sam's parents wanted us to live with them. It started when my father-in-law said, "I'm very busy. It would be nice to have someone take care of us." Sam also agreed with the idea of living together. "I'm concerned about Mom too. I've grown up in this house, and moving now would be inconvenient," he explained. I had almost no chance to oppose living together. When they asked my opinion, my mother-in-law said, "Since everyone seems to think it's a good idea, Katie, do you have any objections?" At that point, I had no choice but to agree to live with my in-laws. Unexpectedly, once we moved in together, my mother-in-law, who had opposed my job, started making life difficult for me, pushing me to quit. She dumped all the household chores on me, even though I was working. If she wasn't satisfied with how I did things, she'd make me redo them. At first, she complained about small things like a speck of dust or a stray hair. I tried to learn from her feedback and clean those spots better. Then she started checking unusual places like behind the TV or between dressers for dust, places that aren't typically cleaned regularly. I thought, these aren't part of normal cleaning routines. So I finally spoke up. "I can't clean these spots every day. I work just like Sam does. I'll do a thorough cleaning on weekends, so there's no need to redo everything today, right?" My mother-in-law got angry and snapped back, "How dare you talk back to me like that? Times have changed. It's unheard of for a daughter-in-law to be so bold." In her anger, she called for Sam. "Sam," Katie yelled at me. I had gently pointed out areas she missed while cleaning, thinking it was for her benefit. But she portrayed herself as the victim, shedding fake tears to Sam. I hoped Sam would understand and support me. "Mom, Katie is working too. Maybe you could go easy on her," I thought. But reality was different. "Why did you upset Mom like that? She was only trying to help. Why are you getting upset?" Sam scolded me. In the end, Sam sided with his mother. That's when I realized the only person I could rely on in that house was my father-in-law. But he was rarely around due to his busy schedule. I had to fend for myself. That's how it went. After that, I stopped confronting my mother-in-law. It didn't matter what I said. She would always tell Sam, and I would end up feeling down. It seemed better just to quietly listen to her. That's the approach I started to take, knowing Sam wouldn't support me. It was the only way to have some peace in that house. I lived like this for a year, but then I started feeling unwell and decided to see a doctor. It turned out I wasn't just sick, I was pregnant. I wondered how my in-laws would react to the news. With a glimmer of hope, I first told my husband. "You know how I've been feeling off lately. I went to the doctor, and guess what? I'm pregnant," I said. "Wow, that's great. So I'm going to be a dad, huh? Can't wait. Do we know the gender yet?" Sam exclaimed. "Not yet. Does it matter to you?" I asked. "Of course it does. It has to be a boy," Sam replied. As I suspected, Sam was his parents' only child. I had a feeling that having a boy might be important for someone to take over the family business. What if it turns out to be a girl? I started to worry about how the baby's gender might be received. "Don't worry, I'm sure it's a boy," Sam reassured me. But I wasn't so confident. We decided to tell his parents only after finding out the gender. Eventually, we learned it was a girl. I was thrilled, though I had no intention of discriminating based on gender. Sam, however, reacted differently. "What? A girl? Are you sure? Get it checked again," he said. Seeing Sam's disappointment made me anxious about how my mother-in-law would react. I dreaded telling her. Despite Sam's initial reaction, we couldn't avoid sharing the news with our in-laws. Eventually, I persuaded Sam to break the news to his parents. "Well, I'm pregnant," he announced. "That's wonderful, Katie. we're finally going to have our first grandchild," my father-in-law exclaimed happily. My mother-in-law, however, asked right away, "So, what's the gender?" With hesitation I replied, "It's a girl." "A girl, huh? I hope she's as lovely as you, Katie," my father-in-law responded warmly, seemingly unconcerned about the gender. But my mother-in-law couldn't hide her disappointment. "A girl? Not a boy? It has to be a boy for it to make sense for Sam," she muttered. I was shocked to hear her say that, but my father-in-law quickly intervened. "Honey, why would you say that? Whether it's a boy or a girl, they're still our grandchild. Can't you just be happy?" After my father-in-law scolded her, my mother-in-law seemed a bit down, but I knew it wouldn't last long. Sure enough, as soon as he left for work, she confronted me. "Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off on the housework. You're not planning to quit your job, are you? If not, keep up with your chores. Pregnancy isn't an illness, you know." Hearing pregnancy isn't an illness from another woman, especially one who had given birth herself, surprised me. It made me question if staying here was the right choice for having my child. My family's home is about a 3-hour train ride away. My dad passed away early and now my mom and older sister live there together. Maybe if I explained everything to them, they might let me stay with them. I started to feel that giving birth at my in-laws' place might not be the safest option and remembered my family's home could be a better choice. I decided to contact my mom right away. "Mom, it's me, Katie. What's up?" "It's rare for you to call. I'm pregnant and I was wondering if I could come home to give birth." "You're pregnant? You should have told us earlier. Congratulations. Come home for the delivery, of course, that's fine. But have you gotten permission from your in-laws?" "Well, not yet. If you discuss it properly and they agree, I don't mind at all." Mom advised me to discuss it with my in-laws. For the safety of my baby, I decided to go home for the delivery. When I talked to my husband about it, he casually said, "Going home for the birth? Oh, I guess that's fine. My mom's here too, so things should be okay around the house." He agreed quickly. Anticipating possible opposition from my mother-in-law, I decided to talk to my father-in-law. After careful consideration, I thought it would be better for everyone if I went home for the delivery. "Would that be all right?" I asked. Initially he looked surprised, but then said, "If that's what you want, Katie, then it's probably best. I won't oppose. Could you possibly talk to my mother-in-law on my behalf?" I asked. "Well, I'll tell her," he replied, seemingly agreeing to my request. With his support, I got permission to go home for the delivery without any problems. On the day I was supposed to leave, I woke up to find that my packed luggage was missing. Unfortunately, both my husband and father-in-law had already left for work. "Do you know where my luggage is?" I hesitated to ask my mother-in-law, but I had no other option. "Oh, that luggage. I got rid of it all. I don't need a daughter-in-law who causes so much trouble. Don't ever come back," she shouted at me as she pushed me out the front door. I hadn't even had time to put on my shoes. All I had was my smartphone. I was practically in my pajamas, and with a loud click, the front door locked behind me. This meant my mother-in-law was serious. She really wanted me out, that much was clear. I felt like if I stayed there, that door would never open for me again. With that thought, I started walking. But it was the peak of summer, and walking barefoot outside was unbearable, so I sought refuge in a nearby diner. Using my phone, the only possession I had, I called my mom. She was furious and promised to be there within an hour. Luckily, she wasn't far away. I spent that hour at the diner, waiting anxiously. When my mom arrived, she wasted no time and drove me straight back to our family home. My sister was already there waiting for us. I poured out everything about my mother-in-law's actions and my husband's indifference. After hearing my story, my mom and sister exchanged some words quietly, leaving me unsure of what they were discussing. The next morning, being at my family home was a breath of fresh air. I was asked to fetch the newspaper, and when I opened the door, I found my mother-in-law and husband kneeling outside. "Katie, I'm so sorry. It was all my fault. Please don't sever ties with my husband's company," my mother-in-law pleaded. "Katie, I'm sorry too. Please, can we continue doing business with my dad's company?" my husband added. Confused, I had no idea what they were talking about. Then suddenly, my mom and sister appeared from behind. "What on earth are you two doing causing a scene this early?" My mom's voice was stern. "What does resuming business mean?" To avoid any further disturbance, my mom invited them inside our home. Once settled, my husband started explaining. "Would you please consider doing business again with my dad's company? My mom and sister manage the company my dad left behind." Curious, I asked my mom, "What does it mean that they're doing business with my father-in-law's company?" "Yes, they work with one of their subsidiary companies," my mom replied. "Exactly. It's a major company within their group, second only to the main office, and their top client is Katie's mom's company," my husband added. I had no idea. Apparently my husband was misinformed. This was news to me too. LOL. Come to think of it, I remember my mother and father-in-law mentioning something about always being indebted to each other when they first met. I recalled. I cannot continue doing business with a family that would send my daughter out in such a state with just her phone. I'm stopping our business dealings, my mom declared firmly. My mother-in-law looked visibly shaken and pleaded, please, I beg you. I'll do anything. Could you reconsider stopping the dealings with my husband's company? At that moment, my sister chimed in with a smirk. You said you'd do anything, right? So you'll agree to Katie's divorce and naturally you'll pay alimony and child support, right? I silently thought, bringing up my divorce now, well played. Actually, before contacting my mom yesterday, I had spoken to my husband. His response was, it's what you deserve, isn't it? I found myself agreeing with my mom's decision. I no longer had any remaining affection for him. I would have brought up divorce anyway if my sister hadn't. But thanks to her timing, the conversation seemed to be turning in our favor. My mother-in-law then asked reluctantly, yes, even if it means agreeing to a divorce, will you resume business with my husband's company? With a confident smirk, my mom took out her phone and began speaking into it. It seems this lady here agrees to my daughter's divorce. From the speaker, my father-in-law's voice echoed, got it. Hey, is Jenna there? Jenna, I'm divorcing you, and Sam, you're fired. Those were the conditions set for resuming business. Additionally, my mom declared, I cannot forgive the two of you for how you treated Katie. You both deserve to be punished. As a result of my father-in-law's decision, my mother-in-law lost her husband, and my husband lost his job, income, and family support. The story continued with a challenging divorce between my in-laws, which eventually went through, reportedly settled by a top-notch lawyer from my father-in-law's side. During the divorce proceedings, assets were divided, and my mother-in-law ended up paying a significant sum in compensation to my husband and me. I, too, went through with the divorce. Living harmoniously with a husband who only followed his mother's wishes was no longer an option for me. I received compensation for the pain caused by my mother-in-law and husband, along with child support for our unborn child. They paid a significant amount from their savings but had to take on debt. With my father-in-law and mom's influence, my husband struggled to find a new job and eventually had to switch careers. He quickly moved into customer service but underestimated the role and faced numerous complaints, leading to his swift termination. Now he's living with his mom and barely scraping by with daily wage jobs. My mother-in-law and husband, once accustomed to a lavish lifestyle thanks to my father-in-law, now reside in a small one-bedroom apartment. Their once close relationship has soured, and they argue frequently. As for my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband, I wonder if there's any hope or joy left in their lives. Meanwhile, I safely gave birth at home to a healthy baby girl. With the support of my mom and sister, I plan to focus on raising her. Once things settle down, I'm thinking of working at my mom's company. I did inform my ex-husband about our daughter's birth, but there hasn't been any follow-up from him. It seems he doesn't care much. All I expect from him is to ensure he pays child support. I have no intention of letting him see our daughter for the rest of her life. From now on, my focus is moving forward and living a fulfilling life with my daughter, supported by those around us.